The Muslim Brotherhood, founded in Egypt in 1928, emerged from the ashes of a crumbling Ottoman Empire. Its founder, Hassan al-Banna, envisioned a pan-Islamic revival, a return to what he considered the purity of early Islam. Al-Banna's ideology, however, was deeply intertwined with political aspirations, aiming to establish an Islamic caliphate through political activism and, at times, violence. This potent mix of religious fervor and political ambition would prove to be a dangerous cocktail, laying the groundwork for the rise of radical Islamist movements across the globe. The Brotherhood's early years were marked by a struggle against British colonialism in Egypt and a perceived erosion of Islamic values. Al-Banna's message resonated with many, particularly among the impoverished and disillusioned, who saw in his vision a path to both spiritual and societal renewal. The organization quickly gained traction, establishing itself as a powerful force in Egyptian society. Its influence extended beyond the borders of Egypt, inspiring like-minded groups and individuals throughout the Muslim world. However, the Brotherhood's rise was not without its controversies. Its commitment to violent struggle against perceived enemies, both internal and external, raised concerns. Assassinations and bombings became a grim hallmark of the organization's tactics. These actions, often justified as necessary measures in the pursuit of a greater Islamic state, set a dangerous precedent. They marked the beginning of a trend where violence became an increasingly acceptable tool for achieving political and religious goals. The Brotherhood's complex legacy is one of both social activism and political extremism. While it engaged in charitable work and provided essential services to impoverished communities, it also harbored a deep-seated intolerance for dissent and a willingness to resort to violence. This duality, this inherent contradiction, lies at the heart of the organization's story and continues to shape the debate about its true nature. The Muslim Brotherhood's ideology, with its emphasis on violent struggle and the establishment of an Islamic state, provided fertile ground for the emergence of even more radical offshoots. Organizations like Al-Qaeda, ISIS, Hamas, and Hezbollah, while distinct in their structures and operational methods, all draw inspiration from the Brotherhood's core tenets. They view the West, and particularly the United States, as the primary obstacle to achieving their vision of a global Islamic order. Al-Qaeda, founded by Osama bin Laden, emerged as a particularly potent manifestation of this radical ideology. Bin Laden, though not a member of the Brotherhood, was deeply influenced by its writings and teachings. He shared its vision of a borderless Islamic caliphate and its animosity towards the West. Under his leadership, Al-Qaeda transformed from a regional insurgency group into a global terrorist network, capable of striking at the heart of Western power. Hamas, founded in 1987 during the First Intifada, represents another offshoot of the Muslim Brotherhood. While primarily focused on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, Hamas shares the Brotherhood's broader goal of establishing an Islamic state. Its charter explicitly calls for the destruction of Israel and its replacement with an Islamic entity. Hamas's tactics, which include suicide bombings and rocket attacks against civilian targets, have drawn international condemnation. Hezbollah, a Shia Islamist political party and militant group based in Lebanon, shares the Brotherhood's anti-Western sentiment and its desire for a regional Islamic order. Founded in 1982, Hezbollah has been designated as a terrorist organization by numerous countries for its attacks on Israeli and Western targets. The organization's ideology, a blend of radical Islamism and Iranian revolutionary fervor, has made it a formidable force in the Middle East. The links between the Muslim Brotherhood and these terrorist organizations are complex and multifaceted. While not directly responsible for the actions of these groups, the Brotherhood's ideology, with its emphasis on violent struggle and its uncompromising worldview, undoubtedly contributed to the intellectual climate that allowed these organizations to flourish. It is crucial to distinguish between the Muslim Brotherhood's ideology and the beliefs of the vast majority of Muslims worldwide. The Brotherhood's vision of Islam as an inherently political force, one that justifies violence in the pursuit of its goals, stands in stark contrast to the teachings of peace, tolerance, and compassion that lie at the heart of the Islamic faith. Moderate Islam, practiced by hundreds of millions of Muslims across the globe, emphasizes the sanctity of human life, the importance of social justice, and the pursuit of knowledge. It is a faith rooted in compassion and understanding, one that embraces diversity and rejects violence as a means of achieving political or religious ends. The actions of groups like Al-Qaeda and ISIS, far from representing the true face of Islam, are an aberration, a perversion of its teachings for nefarious purposes. The Quran, Islam's holy book, explicitly condemns violence against innocent people, emphasizing the sanctity of all life. The Prophet Muhammad himself preached a message of peace and understanding, urging his followers to treat others with respect and compassion. The terrorist acts carried out in the name of Islam are a betrayal of these fundamental teachings, a distortion of a faith that has, at its core, a deep respect for humanity. The Muslim world, like any other religious or cultural group, encompasses a wide spectrum of beliefs and interpretations. To equate the actions of a radical fringe with the beliefs of an entire faith is not only inaccurate, but also deeply offensive and counterproductive. It fuels prejudice, sows division, and hinders efforts to build bridges of understanding and cooperation. The long shadow of Islamist terrorism has darkened the 21st century, leaving a trail of devastation and fear across the globe. From the horrific attacks of September 11, 2001, to the more recent atrocities committed by ISIS, the world has witnessed the devastating consequences of this extremist ideology. These acts of terror, often targeting innocent civilians, stand as a stark reminder of the human cost of hatred and intolerance. The September 11 attacks, orchestrated by Al-Qaeda, remain etched in the collective memory of the world. The collapse of the Twin Towers in New York City, the attack on the Pentagon in Washington, D.C., and the downing of United Airlines Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, claimed nearly 3,000 lives. These attacks, broadcast live on television screens around the world, marked a turning point in modern history, ushering in an era defined by the global war on terror. The 1983 Beirut barracks bombings, which killed 241 American and 58 French peacekeepers, marked an early instance of large-scale Islamist terrorism. These attacks, carried out by Hezbollah, highlighted the growing threat posed by these groups and their willingness to target Western interests. The bombings sent shockwaves through the international community, signaling the emergence of a new and deadly form of terrorism. The 7/7 London bombings in 2005, a series of coordinated suicide attacks on London's public transport system, claimed the lives of 52 people and injured hundreds more. These attacks, carried out by 4 British Muslim men inspired by Al-Qaeda's ideology, demonstrated the reach and lethality of homegrown terrorism. The bombings exposed the vulnerability of even the most secure societies to the threat of radicalization and extremist violence. The Madrid train bombings in 2004, which killed 193 people and injured over 2,000, represented another horrific example of Islamist terrorism on European soil. These attacks, carried out by a group inspired by Al-Qaeda, targeted commuter trains during rush hour, causing carnage and chaos in the Spanish capital. The bombings highlighted the indiscriminate nature of terrorism and its devastating impact on civilian populations. When terror targets innocents, the Beslan school siege. The 2004 Beslan school siege stands as a particularly horrific example of Islamist terrorism, one that shocked the world with its brutality and disregard for human life. On September 1, 2004, a group of armed Chechen separatists stormed School Number 1 in Beslan, North Ossetia, Russia. The terrorists, claiming allegiance to the Islamist warlord Shamil Basayev, took over 1,100 people hostage, including over 700 children. For 3 days, the hostages were held captive in the school's gymnasium, enduring unimaginable conditions. The terrorists, heavily armed and driven by a nihilistic ideology, subjected their victims to psychological and physical torture. The world watched in horror as the crisis unfolded, hoping against hope for a peaceful resolution. On the 3rd day of the siege, Russian security forces stormed the school building in a desperate attempt to free the hostages. The ensuing firefight and explosions resulted in the deaths of 334 people, including 186 children. The Beslan school siege remains the deadliest terrorist attack in Russian history, a stark reminder of the barbarity of terrorism and its devastating impact on innocent lives. The targeting of children, the most vulnerable members of society, represents a new low in human depravity. It is a testament to the warped ideology of these terrorists, one that justifies the slaughter of innocents in the name of a twisted cause. The Beslan school siege serves as a chilling reminder that the fight against terrorism is not just a battle against armed groups, but a battle against an extremist ideology that poisons minds and justifies the unjustifiable. A world held hostage, from London to Mumbai. The scourge of Islamist terrorism has left its mark on every corner of the globe, from the bustling metropolises of Europe to the crowded streets of South Asia. The 2005 London bombings, the 2006 Mumbai train attacks, and countless other attacks demonstrate the global reach of this extremist ideology and the constant threat it poses to international peace and security. The 7/7 London bombings, as mentioned earlier, targeted the city's public transport system during the morning rush hour, killing 52 people and injuring over 700. These attacks, carried out by 4 British Muslim suicide bombers, exposed the vulnerability of even the most open and tolerant societies to the threat of homegrown terrorism. The 2006 Mumbai train attacks, a series of coordinated bomb blasts on Mumbai's commuter train network, killed 209 people and injured over 700. These attacks, carried out by the Pakistani-based Islamist terrorist group Lashkar-e-Taiba, highlighted the threat posed by cross-border terrorism and the use of highly populated areas as soft targets. These attacks, along with numerous others, demonstrate the evolving tactics of Islamist terrorist groups. They are increasingly targeting civilian populations, using suicide bombings and employing sophisticated methods to maximize casualties and spread fear. The indiscriminate nature of these attacks, often targeting people from all walks of life, underscores the depravity of this ideology and the urgent need for a coordinated global response. The Westgate siege terror in Kenya. The 2013 Westgate shopping mall attack in Nairobi, Kenya, marked another grim milestone in the global war on terror. On September 21, 2013, 4 masked gunmen stormed the upscale shopping mall, throwing grenades and firing indiscriminately at shoppers and employees. The attack, which lasted for 4 days, claimed the lives of 67 people and injured over 175. The Somali-based Islamist group Al-Shabab claimed responsibility for the attack, stating that it was retaliation for Kenyan military operations in Somalia. The Westgate siege, coming just weeks after the United States had issued a travel warning for Kenya, highlighted the growing threat of Al-Shabab and its ability to carry out sophisticated attacks beyond Somalia's borders. The attack sent shockwaves throughout Kenya and the international community, underscoring the vulnerability of soft targets and the indiscriminate nature of terrorism. The Westgate siege served as a stark reminder that the fight against terrorism is not confined to battlefields, but extends to everyday spaces where people live, work and shop. Section 8. Terror in the City of Lights, the Bataclan attacks. The November 13, 2015 terrorist attacks in Paris, France sent shockwaves through the world, leaving an indelible mark on the French capital and highlighting the growing threat of ISIS-inspired terrorism. The coordinated attacks, which targeted a football stadium, cafes, and the Bataclan concert hall, killed 130 people and injured hundreds more. The Bataclan attack in particular stood out for its brutality and the cold-blooded efficiency with which it was carried out. 3 gunmen stormed the concert hall during a performance by the American rock band Eagles of Death Metal, spraying the crowd with bullets and taking hostages. The siege ended after a 3-hour standoff with police, leaving 89 people dead inside the Bataclan. The Paris attacks carried out by ISIS operatives marked a turning point in the fight against the terrorist group. They demonstrated ISIS's ability to strike at the heart of Europe, its sophisticated planning capabilities, and its willingness to inflict mass casualties. The attacks sent a chilling message that no country, regardless of its security measures, is immune to the threat of terrorism. Section 9. Orlando and Beyond, the Expanding Reach of Hate. The June 12, 2016, shooting at Pulse nightclub in Orlando, Florida, marked the deadliest mass shooting in U.S. history at the time, and a stark reminder of the threat posed by homegrown terrorism. The gunman, Omar Mateen, opened fire inside the gay nightclub, killing 49 people and injuring 53 others. While Mateen pledged allegiance to ISIS during the attack, investigators found no evidence of direct links between him and the terrorist group. His actions were instead attributed to a toxic mix of homophobia, mental instability, and exposure to extremist propaganda. The Orlando shooting highlighted the dangers of online radicalization and the challenges of identifying and preventing lone wolf attacks. The attack sent shockwaves through the LGBTQ+ community and the nation as a whole, raising questions about gun control, hate crimes, and the threat of domestic terrorism. The Orlando shooting served as a tragic reminder that terrorism can strike anywhere, at any time, and that vigilance and preparedness are essential in combating this evolving threat. Section 10, the Moscow Theatre Attack, a stark reminder. The recent attack on the Moscow Theatre in 2024, claiming the lives of innocent civilians, serves as a chilling reminder that the spectre of Islamist terrorism continues to haunt the world. The attack, carried out with a callous disregard for human life, underscores the persistent threat posed by extremist ideologies and the need for unwavering vigilance in confronting this global challenge. While the details of the attack are still emerging, it is clear that the perpetrators were driven by a hatred so profound that it knows no bounds. Their actions, far from advancing any legitimate cause, serve only to deepen divisions, sow fear, and undermine the very fabric of civilized society. The international community must stand united in condemning this act of barbarity and in reaffirming our shared commitment to combating terrorism in all its forms. We must work together to address the root causes of extremism, to counter the narratives of hate that fuel violence, and to build a world where all people can live in peace and security. Section 11, a call to action, confronting the ideology of hate. The fight against Islamist terrorism is not just a military or law enforcement campaign. It is a battle for hearts and minds. It requires a comprehensive approach that addresses the underlying conditions that allow extremism to flourish. We must counter the narratives of hate that fuel violence, promote tolerance and understanding, and empower moderate voices within Muslim communities. Education plays a crucial role in this fight. We must teach our children about the dangers of extremism, the importance of critical thinking, and the value of tolerance and respect for all people. We must also support educational initiatives in Muslim-majority countries that promote critical thinking, challenge extremist ideologies, and provide young people with alternatives to violence. Economic development is also essential. Poverty, unemployment, and lack of opportunity create fertile ground for extremist recruitment. By investing in economic development, creating jobs, and improving living standards in marginalized communities, we can help to counter the appeal of extremist groups. Finally, we must work to resolve the conflicts and injustices that fuel extremism. From the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to the Syrian civil war, these conflicts create instability, breed resentment, and provide fertile ground for terrorist recruitment. By working towards peaceful solutions to these conflicts, we can help to drain the swamp in which extremism thrives. The fight against Islamist terrorism will be long and difficult, but it is a fight we cannot afford to lose. By working together, we can create a world where all people are free to live in peace and security.